If I had to summarize how to be successful in life in 2 words, I would just say productize yourself. Find what feels like play to you, but looks like work to others. So it looks like work to them, but to you it feels like play. It's not work. So you're going to outcompete them because you're doing it effortlessly. You're doing it for fun. They're doing it for work. They're doing it for some byproduct. To you, it's art, it's beauty, it's joy, it's fulfilling. The more you do things that are natural to you, the less competition you have. You escape competition through authenticity by being your own self.
And the kind of wealth creation that I talk about is about creating timeless principles and adapting yourself so that making money won't be an issue. And you can do it by doing what you love, right? Like we get into this model of I must work for other people, work my way up the ladder. I must do what that person is doing to make money. But really today in society, you get rewarded for creative work, for creating something brand new that society didn't even know yet that it wanted. It doesn't know how to get other than through you. So the most powerful money makers are actually individual brands, people like yourself or Elon or Kanye, right? These are individual brands, eponymous name brands who themselves are leveraged. You're leveraged. You have podcast media going out to everybody. That's leveraged. The podcasts work for you when you sleep. They have knowledge that nobody else has, which is your knowledge is the knowledge of being Joe Rogan. I mean, who else is a UFC fighter and a commentator and a podcaster and a comedian and, interested in all these things and knows all these people? Can't replace you. So we have to pay you what you're worth. The great artists always have this ability to start over. But even the great entrepreneurs, they're just always willing to start over. I'm always struck by the Elon Musk story where, he did PayPal as X.com originally. Actually, it was his financial institution that got merged into PayPal. And he said something like along the lines of, I made $200 million from the sale of PayPal. I put $100 million into SpaceX, $80 million into Tesla, $20 million into Solar City, and I had to borrow money for rent. Right? This guy is a perennial risk taker. He's always willing to start over. He doesn't have any pride about being seen as successful or being seen as a failure. He's willing to put it all on the line.
Back himself again each time.
But the key thing is he's always willing to start over.
So if you want to make the maximum amount of money possible, like if you just want to get rich over your life and you want to do it in a deterministic, predictable way, what you would do is you would basically stay on the bleeding edge of trends, and you would study technology and design and art and things that you think, and you would become really good at something. You would basically be waiting for your moment until something emerged in the world where they needed that skill set, and you're uniquely qualified. You would build your brand in the meantime on Twitter, on YouTube, by giving away free work. So people have heard of you. You would make a name for yourself and you would take some risks in the process. And then when it was time to move in on that opportunity, you would do so with leverage, the maximum leverage possible. And the maximum leverage would mean that you would have people working for you. It would mean you would have a fund or you would have capital. It would mean that you would be writing a book. It would mean that you'd be writing code and that you'd be building a media presence.
Dopamine is a currency, and it's the way that you track pleasure. It's the way that you track success. It's the way that you track whether or not you are doing well or doing poorly. And that is subjective. But if your dopamine is too low, you will not feel motivated. If your dopamine is really high, you will feel motivated. And if your dopamine is somewhere in the middle, how you feel depends on whether or not you had higher dopamine a few minutes ago or lower dopamine. This is important. Your experience of life and your level of motivation and drive depends on how much dopamine you have relative to your recent experience. Dopamine is the molecule of motivation, pursuit, and desire. And it can be triggered by a number of different things. However, it is a non-infinite yet renewable resource. So if you have too big a dopamine release, let's say from methamphetamine, cocaine, or from being in a lot of gunfights in a short period of time, the period immediately after that will involve a mirror symmetric decrease in dopamine. You don't go back down to baseline, you go below baseline. So we all should guard our dopamine peaks very carefully. A little bit goes a long way, a lot goes even further, but it also takes you down deeper afterwards. This is the basis of addiction. The way that your body uses dopamine is to have a baseline level of dopamine, meaning an amount of dopamine that's circulating in your brain and body all the time. And you also can experience peaks in dopamine above baseline. Many drugs, and indeed many supplements that increase dopamine, will actually make it harder for you to sustain dopamine release over long periods of time and to achieve those peaks that most of us are craving when we are in pursuit of things. What it means is that the difference between the peak and baseline is likely to be smaller. And this is very important, how satisfying or exciting or pleasureful a given experience is doesn't just depend on the height of that peak. It depends on the height of that peak relative to the baseline. So if you increase the baseline and you increase the peak, you're not going to achieve more and more pleasure from things. Dopamine is perhaps one of the most powerful molecules that any of us has inside of us, and the one that we ought to all think very carefully about how we leverage. Because while most experiences and most things that we do and take and eat and etc. won't create enormous highs and enormous lows in dopamine, even subtle fluctuations in dopamine really shape our perception of life and what we're capable of and how we feel. And so we want to guard those and we want to understand them. If you're sitting around feeling amotivated, or you find yourself tending to tasks that are irrelevant to the goal that you really should be focused on, you need to put your body and mind into a state of discomfort. And the way to do that is to engage in some tangential activity, meaning an activity not related to your goal that puts your body into a very different state, which is something like cold shower or cold immersion, which not only increases dopamine long-term, or over several hours rather, but for most people is experienced as pain. That pain causes a rebound out of that dopamine trough faster than it would occur if you had just stayed in that amotivated state and waited for it to go away, or done something like cleaning up that for whatever reason felt like it required less friction. So the key is to figure out something that really sucks. And by doing that, you can rebound yourself out of that dopamine trough much more quickly. How do we achieve a healthy baseline level of dopamine? Well, there we can really look to some foundational practices. Those are going to be getting sufficient amounts of quality sleep each night. It allows dopamine to be present and for you to have a level of baseline dopamine that will allow you to even consider your goals in any kind of meaningful or reasonable way. Second, there are practices that are independent of sleep, but are similar to sleep, and I like to refer to these as a non-sleep deep rest. In addition to that, you need proper nutrition and therefore nutrients, in particular tyrosine. The third thing is sunlight. You want to try and view sunlight as early in the day as possible, 5 to 10 minutes on a clear day, 10 to 20 minutes on a cloudy day, 20 or 30 minutes on a very overcast day. And fourth on the list is getting into a regular exercise program at least 5 days a week, a mixture of cardiovascular and resistance exercise. So those are the fundamentals that will set the level of baseline dopamine in your system.